just got back from Maine. I was up um hanging out in the woods, and now back in Providence. I moved to Providence, Rhode Island.
So you were in Brooklyn before that.
Yeah.
When
That's
did
where
you?
you're at, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. That's right. How long ago did you move?
I actually moved in January.
How's Providence?
It's really cool. I like it a lot. It reminds me of Pittsburgh a bit because I'm from Pittsburgh.
So you grew up in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
and you went to undergrad at Tyler, right?
Yeah.
So
You're from the Midwest.
that's right.
Okay.
Would you consider Pittsburgh to be kind of Midwestern?
Right. Well, it's like the Mid-Atlantic. It's close to Ohio and West Virginia. So I definitely feel like it's very different from Eastern PA because since I did go to school there, like I could tell it's definitely different than Philly.
So you grew up in Western PA, you went to school in Eastern PA.
Yeah.
I see. Cool. So what was it you studied painting in undergrad,
Yep.
and then you went to grad school at Yale.
Yep.
So what was that like? What was your experience there?
Which one? The second one?
Both.
Oh.
Both. Like I feel like Yale has there's an aura around it, right?
People have heard of it, that's for sure. People are talking. I really liked Tyler a lot. It was definitely like it's such a painting school, and I really felt like I had a special community, special class. I feel like the professors told us that our class was special. Maybe they just say that to everyone, but like I feel like I don't know, I'm still really good friends with them. And like to talk to them about painting. And or like they didn't all just do painting, but they're cool. And then at Yale it was I didn't take that much time in between, but I worked like on my portfolio like after I graduated from Tyler. I decided I knew I wanted to go to grad school and also that I just wanted to get out of Philly, and I kind of just like worked in the studio on my portfolio. I cleaned houses, I biked around, cleaned houses, painted, and I just happened to get into Yale, which was cool because I wanted to go there because I heard it was good. And I feel like I also had a special class there, and I think that was like what I really gained from the experience. I think like to be totally honest, I do feel like most of my time at Yale, I would say I was like pretty unconscious because I was just like really entering like a like I don't know, like a very dark kind of headspace, I feel like. So I was like now that I look back on it, I feel like I was kind of like not totally present in a way that I feel like I just forgot a lot, but I've come out of that for sure, but I take away like really like the friends that I made. And definitely some of the faculty was great too. But it was just happened to be like a really tough time, I think, for me. That doesn't, I don't know if it had to do totally with the school, but anyways, it was good, but I definitely I have some really close friends from my class that I think didn't have a very good time there. Um,
Seems like a lot of people come out of there with some trauma.
yeah, I think definitely like some of my like closest friends are like from there. Definitely like they have bad things, just have bad memories. And for me, I just feel like I wasn't really present. So I survived because maybe that was good. I was like not present.
You can't, it's not painful if you don't remember anything, right?
That's
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. So what so you had do you feel like after you came out of grad school you had like in terms of just your studio practice, was it a stronger practice in terms of you knew what you were after more?
You
Or were you
know,
kind of making but like I'm curious about like your trajectory in your work from undergrad to grad school and then beyond.
yeah, I'll try to articulate it because actually, like the work that I was making right in between that time I was saying I was in Philly, kind of just working on my portfolio. I was making these really, I like the paintings I was making. Dare I say, I like the paintings I was making,
You may
but
have.
they were kind of like. I would like I got really into like esoteric stuff and like thinking about like visions and like communicating with the so-called dead and kind of making paintings about these things. And then I tried to started making that work that I was still making when I started at Yale. And I feel like in all the studio visits that I was having, it was just, I realized it was almost like too late. Like I had already entered into, I didn't really totally know what it meant. I think I was pretty naive, but when I was at Yale, I was trying to have these conversations. I think I started talking about like visions and these like more spiritual things that it just didn't seem like the conversation was sort of shut down in a lot of the meetings I would have. And it just made me feel like not open to wanting or not ready to like even and I just shut down. I kind of started making just decided I'm just gonna make like a lot of paintings that are just more focused on actually like experimenting with paint and the materials and stuff um and just kind of getting just using that time to really explore that, which was good. I think that was really important to do. I mean, I think that's I feel grateful that I didn't feel like I wanted to develop a style or something. I really wanted to just explore different things that I was into and I to answer your question, I feel like after grad school, I was still like really jumbling around trying to like that's when I was thinking that I had to know what I was doing and I mean I think a lot of people have this experience where after grad school it's like a year or two after that you're like still really dealing with the critics in your head that kind of were born in that program or sort of like just like a back and forth conversation of self-doubt and stuff and then I started getting back into like merging more of this sort of more, I guess, I don't know what the words are, visions or spiritual kind of interests that I sort of really shut down when I was in the program. They have, they slowly started coming back more.
This
And
would
I
be
think
after grad school.
yeah, like a few, like slowly more up until recently. And I think that like I think it's just one of those things that I think also most artists have where you look back on work you made a really long time ago and you're like, well, I'm actually still thinking of the same things totally. It was always about like this thing. And so I think that I'm still just learning and exploring, and I'm just starting to feel more okay with feeling free, which is so, I think I'm like, basically, it's been like a full circle. I think I'm kind of going back instead. And before, like for the past few years and after grad school, I think I was really tightening up. And now I'm kind of going back into a different realm.
It sounds like that in grad school they didn't really have the language. They couldn't really talk about your interests or like the more esoteric interests, the more mystical interests. So
Yeah, mystical. That's good.
yeah, it
Figure
seems
out the
like a
word.
yeah, it seems like a good move to really focus on then things that they can understand, like painting, on
Oh,
a
that's so
physical
nice.
level.
That's so nice that you said that. That is such a nice, comforting thing to say. I feel like I appreciate that positive perspective.
Well, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think everybody in grad school, for those that have gone and for most programs, and I think if you're doing it right, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of like you feel like everything's on the line, and there's a lot of just a hyper focused sort of state in which you feel like everything's being scrutinized, and you're
Yeah.
in this kind of it's a bubble, of course. Like I mean, I suppose it's a bubble within a bubble, and so on,
Yeah.
but. But I think that's if you can come out of it with a good group, a good community, and that's really what it's about. So after Yale, so it's after Yale, you moved to Brooklyn, and you're
I moved upstate for a couple of
ah
years. Yeah, Hudson, weird time out there.
nice. Well,
Um, the Catskill Mountains, got to look at them
it's
every
beautiful
day.
up there.
Yeah, really pretty.
Yeah.
And then I moved to then I moved to Brooklyn. Yeah.
So you had a studio up there, upstate.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So you then from upstate you went to Brooklyn
Yeah,
and you had a studio. Did you have a studio in the Troutman building?
I did. Yeah.
The
With,
famous 1717?
yeah, Gabby and
That's
Duran.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. With
that was
Amy,
cool.
was Amy still there?
I
Was
was just when I was just arriving, she was just
she
leaving.
was leaving? Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. It's like that building is like legendary. There's so many places in New York. Just you tap into that energy, right?
Yeah, that was so intense and I was so excited. I was just like, let me get a studio. It was so hard for me to get a studio when I lived upstate that I was just like I made me crazy and I was just like I gotta find one and I was so excited because it was great that I knew the people. And that building, yeah, that building was amazing. It's just so big.
It's massive, and there's so much history there, and like
Yeah.
everybody, it's like the 6 degrees of separation with studios. Like everybody will know somebody who knows somebody that had a studio there at one point.
Seriously, or I'd find out like somebody that I knew was in there or something, and I
Yeah, you just see him in the
oh.
hall, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the first time I saw your work, actually. I was doing a studio visit with Gabby back in like 2015, 16, something like that.
Oh, cool.
Was
Yeah,
that around the
26.
time?
I moved there 2016, so
Yeah, and I was like, oh, what's that? I gotta stop. I was like, what? I was
that's
instantly
cool.
compelled.
Whoa, that's so cool.
So, and then you had a couple of you had a show at, um, before Jack Barrett had the space. What was it
I did
called? It
some
was
shows with Delhi Gallery.
Delhi, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that was really cool. Actually, it was really fortunate to do when I was still living upstate. It was kind of like my transition out of living up there, but I had my first show actually in at Delhi when he had the space that was in Queens.
Yeah, Long Island City, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I had my first show that summer, right before I was like moving out. And, and then I had another one in 2018.
At Delhi.
Hmm.
And then from there you started showing at Jack Barrett.
Yeah. Hmm.
Cool. Yeah, those are both great spots. And
Yeah.
I was sorry to hear the Delhi closed last year.
I know, me too. I feel like he did a lot of amazing shows, and that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I saw when I noticed that, I was like, I guess we all have a shelf life, right?
Yeah,
Like as
totally.
everything does and everything
Yep.
we think it's permanent,
No,
Huh.
everything has its little lifespan.
It does. And it's all alive, and I really get a sense looking at your paintings, there's a real life in them, a real like it's you're really going for this the spark.
I am going for the spark. Yeah,
Whatever
always.
that means,
Yeah, I definitely. I'm sorry, my cat's trying to jump up here. Definitely always going for the light at the end of the
Yeah.
horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like there was an article about Louise Fishman in Art in America years ago that stuck with me, and it started out talking about Franz Klein. Do you know Louise Fishman, the artist? She
She,
showed with Chyman Reed. Just an awesome. She passed away unfortunately a couple of years ago. She was
oh,
maybe in her 80s, so she had a quite long career, but she um makes these like beautiful abex kind of paintings. And the article was about her, and I was compelled because I went to the University of Illinois, and like I didn't
yeah,
know
I know.
anybody who had like went there for grad school, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. But the article saying it started out by saying uh, this Franz Klein quote that painting is like hands in a mattress. And I had to think about that for a while. I'm like, oh, painting is like hands in a mattress.
Whoa.
And with certain painters, when I see their work, I think of that quote. And yours, I feel like I think of that when I think of your work, like because you're really trying to think about like the tactile quality, like the motion of that, or what you're
That
doing
feels
there.
crazy. I feel like it makes sense for Louise's paintings. Yeah, why do you think that?
You're really trying to like get at something, like
Yeah,
get just in
feel
terms of
deep.
the material thing. I mean, you're obviously doing a much different thing. Um, I hope we could talk a little bit about the content, like the air quotes here, content, like I, which whatever that means, but there was one painting I was really struck by looking at your website, um, of a figure giving birth to a dolphin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love that. It's such a great painting. Like,
Thanks.
how
That's
does
funny.
that,
Before you said that, I knew you were gonna say that painting.
you do it? Yeah,
I
you
just
do
could
it.
see that that wasn't, I could see that that
You,
was what you were
yeah.
thinking. Um, what were you gonna ask?
Well, I wonder if you could maybe like talk about like maybe the initial inception of that painting.
Okay. Well, it has to do more with like, well, let me try to remember. Let's see. Um, imagined birth, I think. Imagined birth and the dolphin and then the dolphins and the I think I was thinking of also like the body dying and then giving life because the the it the top of it has the horizon. There's the sun setting right in the eye, and the eye and the so the head is like turning into the sky, and but it's the setting sun, so it's sort of like an ending. I think it usually starts with that feeling of that transition. I can't remember. I feel like it also the dolphin specifically was I think about having a dream about giving birth to a dolphin or something like along those lines, but and also like having it be something that I'm not sure I feel totally the idea of birth in itself, like I'm not sure how I feel like totally comfortable about that, but there's something about an imagined birth so I can have it be whatever I want it to be. So it's like a mammal, or maybe I'm not me, but just like the feeling of being in the womb, the dolphin in the womb. Also, it's kind of like there's mountains, I think, and the trees going. I think we're talking about the same painting. Yeah. And I think it also has to do with like the as I move like a sort of like eternity symbol of the sunset going down into the water and then the dolphin and then like the birth of the dolphin is kind of like the body is the sea itself, like she's kind of like turning into the sea. Becomes like a lot of big things. It's a lot, but it's all about the sunset and the
Oh
sunrise.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all about the sunset and the sunrise because that's the biggest. Mother Nature's the best artist,
absolutely.
biggest inspiration. And
Yeah.
so just chasing that feeling.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a beautiful painting. You can tell. I mean, there's just I'm looking at it right now and I'm just like struck by it's the color, right? Like, you've got this, of course there's the idea and the content and I was wondering if it came from a dream. Um, but that stuff it's like the scaffolding upon which you can venerate nature, then it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
There's just some beautiful moves in this painting, though. Some really surprising, and I just it's like there's a kind of an intoxicating element, like looking at it. You're
Oh,
kind of
that's cool. I feel like that painting also was it kind of was a pivot point. It helped me to start be letting myself be a little bit more free, for lack of better words. I don't know, just like with the paint physically, where I was starting to use more tools that were wiping away, removing paint, and then like I like to have some control with the paint and then let chaos take over because I feel like there has to be it's important for me to disrupt the process in a way. So I think with that painting, I was really letting myself get get crazy and like get really enjoy the experience of using all of those really bright colors, but then wiping them onto each other and going back and forth. It was a very physical. I was sort of like jumping up and down with these like really like not like big palette knives or like um sort of like swiping the paint down.
It feels very physical.
There was a lot of energy that went into like physical energy that went into that painting. As yeah, big painting.
Yeah, it comes out in the work, and I think that seems to be a part of it is the physicality, right? Um, like it's a there's a real energy to these paintings that I everything about it that just a real brightness and energy that
Thanks.
comes out.
Well, I feel like that's what's special about paintings in general is like that people choose to spend their time making a painting. And it's only kind of that energy that you choose to put towards bringing something forth into the world is so concentrated because you get to a point where you are just making, I mean, you're making this thing that's brand new. I just think that there has to be the energy has to be in there somehow. It's not like I mean, that's why it's different than AI or like a robot making a painting. We have this energy that is like a life force that pushes through the paint onto the surface.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think consciousness is the most powerful creative force there is. And if you're doing it right, then you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see. That's the nice thing about paintings is that it's all there. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing
Yeah,
secret, right?
that's true. Cool. I like that.
So for the process, it sounds like it's pretty intuitive. Like, how much planning is involved in a painting?
I like to make sure I'm just starting to realize this about myself. Every time I think I know what I'm doing, then I better switch it up because I don't really want to have a system totally. Because I don't really I just like change. I just love change. I'm obsessed with change. And I just but for a while I was actually years ago when I first started making paintings, I did start with found photographs and sort of like family photographs because that was kind of the subject matter that I was interested in, or it was connected. But then also there was something about the color of photographs from like the 60s, 70s. So I don't know, just like really interested in that color. And so maybe that's just, I just put that in because that I think that there's something that informed me years ago with the color. But more recently, I would work from drawings would that really came just from visions that would come to me or my imagination. I would just be walking and like something comes to me and I just have to draw it. And then I would make the painting from the drawing, making sure that it was. In the past few years, I've been more strict about making sure that I'm trying to make the painting that's exactly from my imagination instead of sort of just like really sitting down and trying to capture what I'm seeing and draw it. But recently, I've been letting myself just start a painting without making a drawing too. And I think that sometimes I just like to be surprised. I don't want to always know how it's going to work out. I mean, with the planning part. But I do think drawing is really important and I want to get back into it. It's been a little bit slow because of my moving all over the place and getting resetting up my studio and stuff. So I haven't been drawing in my sketchbook as much, but I will get back to it. That's a huge part of the process. And I also just like trying different what's it called? I like to try different surfaces. So I haven't so for a while I was making paintings on unprimed canvas. Even like a lot of undergrad and grad school paintings were paintings that were just on like rabbit skin glue surfaces. And apparently people remember these paintings because I've just talked to like certain people from Yale and they'll say, "Oh, I remember those paintings, Haley." And I was, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that you remembered them." So that was cool, but I stopped doing that because there was something about it that was like seemed like a little too. I was suspicious. It seemed like a little too easy. They were like too nice. And I was like, I can't do that. But then I worked more on just on canvas with gesso and then like oil ground. But now I also really, really like to paint on panel. I think I like prefer painting on wood the most. But then I just thought that, and then the other day I was trying to go back into painting on the canvas, like without it, like on the unprimed canvas, just because I wanted to just see what it was like again. And I like that too. I like to just that's why every time I think I got it, it's gonna change. So who knows? Maybe I'll be painting on cardboard. I don't know. Probably not.
You're a real artist. I think of you in that, like you're like an explorer. I'm not going to say how anybody should be or how an artist should be, but that's a great quality to have where you're always willing to try new things and change it up. And if it seems like it's too easy or something like that, you want to like go a different way. Because I think a lot of and the culture is really set up for artists to be makers of products,
Yes.
which we are. Of course, you're producing an object. Many people want to see something that's beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think that we can get caught in these traps, and it sounds like you have sort of built-in ways of avoiding these aesthetic traps.
That's good. Yeah, I agree. I find I get very I feel grateful that I have this feeling in me that doesn't want to follow that like anytime that something feels like it's getting to be too much of expected of me. I find it like very disturbing. I will never forget being in, even when I was in grad school, like working on all kinds of different paintings. And then one professor, I barely have any memories left from that time because I was so not there present that I remember this one time that I had this one painting and she said, oh, this is what you should do now. Like, this is what you should do now. And there's something in my stomach just like dropped in. I was like, you shouldn't have said that. Like, I will never do this again. Like, you should not. I never want to be like that. Granted, this is a painter and amazing, like really like had other helpful things to say, I'm sure. But also, this is coming from someone who makes kind of very, very similar paintings like all the time, but are very committed and everyone's it takes all kinds of people to make the world, so it's good. But I was very disturbed by that comment, and I still feel it, and it especially like in the art world and working with galleries and collectors, people like wanting, they just want it to be some kind of brand, and I just never I want to reject that kind of, but I want to be conscious that I'm not just not I'm not rejecting it just for the sake of it. I feel like I just have to trust myself and be the most authentic version of myself. So in the end, it's still gonna be me that and still gonna probably have some of my essence and it will be visible. But I definitely, yes, I like to stay curious and challenge myself. If something becomes too easy, it's just like not interesting. So I gotta switch it up.
That's good. I think there has to be a bit of rebellion too. Like that's
Yeah.
healthy. That's part of the role of the artist is to shake things up, right?
Yeah.
I remember that it reminds me of one painting I saw of you. I correct me if I'm wrong. There was a painting you did of a woman standing up peeing on a fire. Is that right?
Mhm.
Did you make that? Is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, that was from my second show at Delhi.
I love that painting just because
Thanks.
it was beautifully painted, but it was also like a big fuck you to whatever. Just like I'm gonna do it. I'm
Thanks.
just gonna be wild and dance around this
Yeah.
fire and pee in the fire. Whatever it is.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I should make that painting again.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's a new thing I've been which is kind of contradicting maybe what I just said, but it's newer for me sometimes I realize that I am interested to like look back at older work and maybe try to redo it. Or just it's still going to be a different painting, but yeah, maybe I'll do that one.
there was fortune in a Chinese fortune cookie I got one time that said, even moderation in moderation. And I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
that took me, I'm still, I'm still
That's
unpacking. Yeah,
funny. Whoa. Wow.
I'm still unpacking that years later.
Yeah, yeah. Wait, damn, what's your sign?
Taurus
Oh, okay. Coming up. Okay. You're
coming
in,
up.
it's
Exactly.
your time.
Yeah.
It's your
Yeah,
time.
that's right. That's right. I feel it. When's yours?
Uh, November.
November. I have no idea what the signs mean, but a friend of mine who actually, do you know George Carr? Did
Yeah,
he go to Yale around the same time as you?
he was a little bit after
A
me,
little after.
but
Okay.
I
Anyway,
know.
he told me that he doesn't really like subscribe to the what they mean, but on from like an astrological sense, but he likes to ask people about it because they'll tell you things about themselves.
There you
You'll
go.
say you say what is like well, what do you like? What's your sign? And they'll be like, oh, I'm this, so I'm this
Yeah,
this
right,
way,
right.
you know.
That's true. I like that. That's it. That's cool.
It becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what prompted the move from Brooklyn?
Well, I wanted to leave New York and I kept waiting for a sign of where to go. And I wasn't getting any signs, but I still knew I had to leave. So that was an interesting experience to leave, packing up everything, not knowing where I was going to go. I mean, I was like staying, it was also right before the summer. So I was sort of floating around, staying at different people's houses, like up in Maine and dog sitting and stuff. And then staying with my mom in Pittsburgh too. But I just felt like I always knew that wasn't gonna stay forever because I just always feel like I knew I was just passing through. I mean, I feel that way for most places that I feel like I'm just passing through, but um just seemed like, oh, I really just got an image. The image was always just a stagnant pond. And that felt like there isn't like anything dead floating on the pond. That wasn't bad, but there was also no movement in the water. It was just kind of like if I stayed in New York, that's what I saw. It was just like a that image.
Like in your mind's eye, or just like in a dream, or
Just a no, just in my mind. It's like I feel like the way to communicate for me is best with metaphors. So I just mean like that that's the reason why I left.
so
But I also I think just not really feeling so connected to I mean the people are what kept me there the longest. I really care about my friends there, but I think I was just feeling like it wasn't really so interesting. Oh my gosh, my cats are hissing. Whoa.
they're in a
I
fight.
don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Wow, that was exciting. There were tigers in the background.
Yeah.
I felt like it wasn't I wasn't feeling challenged also in my practice. So my and like I wanted to be closer to nature and I wanted to feel like there just needed to be some disruption. And I had to things just couldn't be going the way they were. Everything was kind of going the same. So I had to change. And so I started teaching at RISD. I was asked to teach a class at RISD. So that was also that then eventually there was that sign that I kind of was thinking that I was gonna probably be in New England because my dad lives up in Maine. So I was thinking of going closer to him there. And then when they asked me to teach, I thought, oh, that's cool. And I visited Providence and it reminded me sort of Pittsburgh a little bit. And so I had some friends here and so I made that plan and here I am.
So when you said you were sort of waiting for a sign, what sign might
Oh, that's a good question.
yeah.
I don't know. I was looking. I just well, and then there was maybe like if I think maybe I applied to some residencies and but that was almost going to be like too easy in a way because that was just going to be like then I would just say I did get a residency, then I would still have to eventually make the decision that I was going to move somewhere. And I think it's just so hard to get out of New York. You have to like just go somewhere. So it was like I just needed to get somewhere. And I mean, I think really the sign eventually was like when I was asked to teach, and I kind of thought it was sort of like a hypothetical thing, and then they were like, no, we're expecting you to be there. And I was like, oh, okay. But no, there wasn't. I think I was just knew when I would know, or knew when the sign would appear. I would just know.
You'd know it when you saw it.
Yeah, and it wasn't, and it was just time was going, getting, it was just waiting and waiting, and it was like had to make a decision because I had to tell my landlord, and so I just knew that I was going to leave, but not sure where I was going to end up going.
You escaped.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really, I don't even know because like the thought is like I think so many people want to leave New York, but where do you go?
Yeah, that was for a while. That was the question. And then I got out. But I think some people, I don't know, I feel like most of my friends that live in New York definitely want to stay in New York. I think that was also kind of hard because I felt like a little bit like I think I thought it was kind of crazy that a lot of them were like, wait, why are you going? Where are you going? You don't know. What? Why are you doing this? Luckily, they let it. I did it anyways.
And they remained your friends.
Yeah, they're still my friends.
Still your
That's
friends.
good.
It's a hard place. It's a tough place because especially when like I mean I'm 40 now, it's like when you start approaching middle age, you're kind of like you want to be closer to nature. And there's definitely something sort of ingrained in us as we reach a certain point in life where you're like more drawn to nature and away from like go partying and going out and socializing more and like cities. I feel like cities are tough physiologically.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of that makes sense. I also think like I do really like cities. I think because I always lived in a city, and actually when I moved upstate after grad school, that was a really weird hard time for me because I'd never lived in like a small town. And it was just different for me. I like to like feel more anonymous and not have everyone. It's like a small town, so people know everyone and stuff,
Yeah.
and that was new for me. Um, but I mean and I still really like cities a lot, and I really like New York. But yeah, I think, and when I was a kid, I also wanted to be closer to nature too. But I think I just really like to be on the road also, and I think um I also started feeling like I realized that I'd lived in New York for like 8 years, but I made sure like I never was around in the summer. I really can't. It's just so hot, and I need to be in nature more in the summer, especially. And just with the weather getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and also just kind of like offensively overpriced things in New York, just felt like I don't think this is sustainable, and um it's just not the right place. But I mean, but you can make it work. I'm not I also I think like it's totally the right place for a lot of people, and there's ways to do it that are great. And then you can like live near a park, and you can actually I lived near the river, and that was a saving grace that really helped me a lot because I felt grateful to be near water.
What
But
river?
the East River,
Hmm. Yeah,
um
I'm lucky. I'm right by Greenwood Cemetery. I don't know if
that's nice.
you've been
Yeah,
in there. Yeah,
yeah, that's
it's a
awesome.
paradise in there. It's like this. Just
Yeah.
nobody goes in there. It's amazing. Just birders. Just me and a bunch of birders.
Oh, that's so nice. I would go all the time if I were you.
Oh, it's amazing. I saw a green heron last week. Which is I don't know if you've ever seen one. They're much smaller than a blue heron. Like
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'd never
Oh,
seen one. There was like a whenever there's like birders like looking at the same direction, I always see what's up. And there was like a gold crested egret of some kind that was visiting that. So they'll come and there's like a birder chat thing, and they can like tell each other. They can tell like
oh, cool.
find out where certain birds are in certain places.
That's cool.
But there we go. That's like a kind of more. I never thought I would be into like birding and gardening. I also have a back like patio where I have a little pot, like a garden with like
That's
just with pots and stuff.
that's great.
Um, but I never thought I would be into gardening and birding. Like, not that I'm a super big birder, but I'm like, I could see the allure now.
I love
Yeah.
birds.
Oh, they're amazing. They're just, I mean, they're just completely, I think it's the closest thing to like extra dimensional beings, right?
Wow.
They're wide, they're just the plumage and the call and this, the hearing bird calls, just is
Wow, so beautiful.
truly amazing.
Yeah.
So in your work, it sounds like you start from an idea, maybe a sketch, and from there, the painting kind of evolves from this sort of from this sketch, and then you sketch it on the canvas and then paint sort of loosely based on that sketch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it goes.
But there's a real freedom. But yeah, I'm sure like I like that it's really open to these like painterly moves.
Yeah, I think I have to make sure it stays open, and not really get too stuck on an outcome because that's not interesting, I guess. And I mean, in the end, there's like probably a feeling I'm searching for, and um but so it will always be there, like anyways, because that was the intention, is like behind a feeling or something. So that's going to be in there no matter what. But um I just like to make sure there's optimal freedom, and make sure that I can have a place of initiation. Like there has to be a starting point. So like the drawing will help, just to get things going. And um, and then I do mostly, in most of my more recent work, I'm doing a lot of like kind of like like a squeeging, or like a way that I disrupt what I'm working on. So I'll put in a lot. It's almost like building something with clay. I like will put a lot of paint on. I'm trying to sculpt something out, and then I like remove it, and then there's like a residue that's left, and then I'll work on that, sort of like adding and subtracting. I mean, that is, it just like feels a lot more like building something with clay almost, because I don't know, something about adding and then removing, but there's just a little imprint, almost like a fingerprint that's left there.
So then
Um,
maybe that fingerprint, that imprint becomes the starting point for another series of moves,
the next moves, yeah,
the
it's
next moves.
like leading the path that it's just initially started with a drawing, but then it like could really change.
You get almost like a like you're climbing or something. It's like you get a foothold here, and then your whole body changes into the next foothold, and you got another spot, and then it sort of evolves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah, I really have you always drawn since you were a kid?
Yeah.
Like as a kid? Yeah,
You?
yeah, yeah. I always did. I feel like, and it's so nice. Was your family were they encouraging?
Yeah, I'm really lucky for sure.
Same. Yeah, that's amazing. And like to have the background where you're encouraged to follow this creative impulse is critical, right?
It's so true. Yeah, I feel really grateful. My dad was like a theater actor, and so he was interested in, or he's still interested in art, and now he just started painting, which is
Oh
cool.
wow.
Yeah,
Cool. Did you get him set
water.
up?
He got watercolors. Yeah, he's getting into it. I think they're great. And he's coming to visit in a couple days, and he's gonna show me what he's working on.
Oh, that's
I'm
great.
excited. Yeah. And I like he has cool ideas. Sometimes he'll even like tell me ideas for paintings. I don't I think they're really good. Usually sometimes they're strange. And my mom is also just really interested in the art, and she's a very creative person, and I think like she is an artist in many ways too. She's a nurse, but a hospice nurse, but um yeah.
That's
And
great.
then
Yeah.
I went to a Waldorf school when I was a kid, so I think that also helped because there's a lot of art in that curriculum. And I went to an art high school. I felt so grateful. Like, and when I learned that there was a thing called art school, like college, I was like, oh my God, why would you ever want to do anything else? I have to go to art school. I can't wait. Like, I don't want to do anything else.
Oh, amazing. So the whole time, your whole
Oh
from
yeah.
early childhood to the whole you've never had a different path.
No doubt.
It's very lucky, and it that shows through. I think that really that comes through in your work too. There's a confidence there, and that really it's a lot of people have to sort of like oh, am I an artist? Um, and I think I thought that most people that were artists just always knew they were going to be an artist, which I
Yeah.
think it's not that as common as you'd think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never had any doubt either. And then I have some really good friends that didn't start painting or doing things till like later on, and I think that's really cool too. Like I f- I mean obviously like it's all interesting, but um it's just so interesting to see the people who are so committed, and then I'll find out that they were going to study science or something, and I'm like whoa, but that yeah but I always knew.
That's the cool thing about art, though. That like, at any point, you
Yeah,
can take it up. You don't. You're never too old.
I know exactly. My dad's making these watercolors and they're awesome, so
Yes, it's great. It's great. You can make interesting work at any age too. It's
yeah,
not. It's
it's
not. It's
cool.
not. Yeah, you can become. I mean, even the term hobbyist like is a little like. I mean, I should say the term professional.
Right.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, like whatever, it's just like you can just say you're, I mean everyone's making art. I mean, 100% anyone can do it and it's great. And I hope everyone, I just think everyone should just spend their some time making drawings.
Yes. Yeah. I think that the world would be a more interesting place for sure.
Yeah.
And probably a kinder place because I think you tap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because you're watching people and you're just sitting with something. Yeah.
Yeah, you're tapping into this creative part of yourself, which everybody is has this potential creative potential, and everybody can pick up something and draw. It's like you don't really have to have any training. You just
No, you don't even have to have a lot of money. You can find a piece of a pencil on the ground and like find a napkin. Like anyone can afford it.
yeah, draw in the sand, like
Yeah, exactly.
anything just to do that. And I think that's an impulse that we've always had since it's a part of being human, right? If you look at the cave paintings, there's real sophistication and a real
Yeah.
joy in those.
So, yeah, so true.
And up until like it's an impulse that I think is it's always it's it's just built in, it's baked into the what it means to be human, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
There was a documentary. Did you ever see Pretend City on Netflix with
Yeah.
Friendly? That's really good.
I
Yeah,
love Friendly Woods.
she's awesome. Yeah, she's so good. She was talking about just really enjoying painting, just really like, right? She was talking about
I
just
don't
loving
remember that.
painting. I think
Oh my
she
God.
was
Why don't I remember?
saying if you want to be really happy, like that, do
Oh,
that. But if you want to make other people happy, do something like music or be a chef or something like that.
right. Aw, she's so cool.
You're settled into country life.
Yeah, country life. Yeah, I have my studio's in my apartment and it's good. It's really cool because I can like wake up really well, I wake up early and but I can just go and do something whenever, or like I don't have to worry about getting home late, and I can be home and I'll work late if I want to. But I definitely still feel it's an adjustment, not the home studio, but just a new studio because and a new like system. Um but I hadn't had a studio for a few months, and that was a difficult time, but I was also traveling around a lot and I still was making drawings in my, as long as I have a sketchbook, it's good. But I was really eager to paint again. So now I'm so glad to be painting. And I think in the summer, once the semester ends, then I can start really honing in on some bigger paintings because I've just been like focusing on smaller things, but I have space to do a lot. So I'm excited.
So were you teaching before this, or is this your first class?
This is my first class. Yeah,
That's
teaching.
great. And it's going well so far?
Yeah, they're amazing. They're super inspiring.
Do you feel like being a teacher has changed the way you think about painting?
Definitely just reminded me what it's all about, which is just to be free and not to just, it just re reminded me things that I needed to be reminded of. And I just think they're all so inspiring. So I just will be. looking at their work all day, and then I can't wait to get home and make some paintings too. So that's nice. I feel so grateful.
That's the best. Yeah, I only taught a couple semesters in grad school, but I remember thinking like these guys are really they're really good. Like, how would you think of
Yeah,
that? Like, there's some they make weird paintings, and
they're
there's some
so
yeah
weird. Like sometimes I know I repeat myself a lot to them, and I'm just like, I will so many times I'll just be like, I can't believe this is a like this exists. This painting is so different that you like this never existed before. I don't know, sometimes I mean obviously any painting is like that, but some of the paintings they make I just will really think about of like the and remembering when I was in school, like the choices that we were just like really inventing some totally unseen compositions. It's like really wild.
yeah some stuff. I mean, like I would look at something and be like, you can't teach that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I don't know what to say. They're definitely teaching me. I don't know if I'm teaching them, but they're teaching me. So I hope that maybe, I don't know, they're getting something.
That reminds me of there was a quote. I just read. Do you know Becky Chambers, the author, sci-fi author?
No, what has
She's
she?
she's great. She did a series called The Wayfarers, but there's a book I just read.
Oh,
It's called To Be Taught If Fortunate. But it comes from a quote that I think it was the UN Secretary General at the time that's got sent out with the space probe to Voyager, or the space probe called Voyager. But one quote in that says, um, "To teach if called upon, and to be taught if fortunate." I just liked that wording, that
oh,
language.
that's nice. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think we're doing that. We're with teaching, and that's such a sacred thing. Is teaching. Like that exchange is so important. Like I've gotten so much out of my own professors, and I think what you're doing as a teacher is really such a valuable thing. You're like giving back, but you're also receiving as well.
Yeah, I definitely am. Yeah. You have good quote memories.
I, I'm sure they're probably not completely correct.
Oh,
I'm probably mostly like slightly wrong with some of
oh,
these, but you get the idea though, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's an amazing thing though. Like the whole thing of what is going on here. I think we're here. Like there's like deeper things happening. And then it's not just like making marks on a canvas, and it's not just hanging out and having a good time. I mean, those are parts of it, of course, but
Yeah.
I think there's something deeper in terms of like the painting process, and then teaching is wrapped up in this. There's like a transmission happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're all like really thinking about things and discovering just it's just really cool to watch them making discoveries um and just like such a genuine interest for how things work in the realm of paint and how little things, little choices can change the, yeah, all kinds of parts of painting. There's
What's
so many.
like, yeah, it's infinite. The
Yeah.
possibilities of what you could do. It's almost paralyzing, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And so I'm just like also feeling those things that they're pointing out. So,
The pure possibility.
yeah. Hmm.
And they're at the stage, I think, as a student where you don't quite realize the potential of it. I mean, nobody does. You can never fully realize like the true potential of what you could do or what the paint could do, but just to sort of hint at it a little bit. And I do get a sense looking at your work that there is like you're really tapping into that space of possibility, of like there's so much happening in paint and even like the narrative content that really like makes me think about possibilities of like, oh yeah, this is like a realm that's possible physically, but on a mystical level too, right?
That's cool. I like that.
Because that's our it's got it's a
There is definitely possibilities. I believe there's many possibilities.
yeah,
So
it's infinite. Everything, just in the pure uh potential of it. I just spoke with do you know Mike Ambron?
yeah,
He
yeah,
Yeah, I just had him on last week on the podcast, but
that's nice.
he's just like he's as a paint maker, I'm just fascinated by that. Like the paint itself and the pigment itself, if you go deeper into it, we were talking about this, like you're really getting at the real, like the real stuff of it, right?
Oh my God, yeah, that's so cool. I absolutely I love he made me he or I made paint with him
You
before.
did.
Yeah, like a year or two ago, but it was really he's awesome. Magician.
Yeah, wizard for sure.
Yeah.
What did you guys make?
Oh, I some blues. Oh, some really nice blues and a nice brown. But they were so good. I was savoring those paints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he make them by hand? Was he like hand grinding them, or did he just
Yeah,
do?
I mean, he was showing me and then I was doing some of them too. And
Oh,
I
so
mean,
you ground them yourself?
yeah, yeah, we were making them.
Oh yeah, together.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And also just like I have so much respect. It's like I can't and he's just the quality of his were so much better, but it was cool to try to do it too.
What did you feel different like when you used that paint? Did you feel more connected to it?
Oh yeah, I definitely did. I feel
Wow.
really, yeah, there's some paintings that I know that it's on and I'm like, ah, it's something special in those ones.
Yeah, yeah. It's the whole that's amazing. And with the really the paint itself, everything I think everything is living. You know, everything is actually um alive on a certain level, connected and alive. But if you really like understand that, I'm fast. He was saying that some of the properties of the paint, like they'll do different things. The pigments themselves
Yeah.
they have qualities that companies homogenize them. So this
Mhm.
is, I didn't know that, but like paint will want, actually, I did kind of notice this. Do you remember using Williamsburg before they moved up to upstate? Like
I don't remember.
well,
Or
some of
I
them,
don't know the difference.
they had this Williamsburg blue or this ultramarine blue that was really stringy. And they used to leave, they probably still do it a little bit, but back when it was in Williamsburg and Brooklyn, the guy whoever made it, I think Carl Plansky, he was like he was a painter as well, but he also was really into like the qualities of the paint, real paint maker. And I noticed a lot of the pigments would behave differently. Like the ultramarine was stringy, some of the alizarin crimson and other transparent colors were like quite coarsely ground, but they
Mhm.
were trying, I think what they were trying to do is let the paint sort of have its own intrinsic qualities, which looking back, I realized that each pigment does have its own sort of character. That
Yeah, it does. And I remember making the paint with Mike, and you really saw it firsthand how if you added a little bit of whatever the elements were, how quickly it would react.
what was he adding to it? Like
I can't
mediums and
remember
things
like
like
yeah,
that,
like
or
and like I forget what the powder is, the binder, and then like you have to just get the right ratio and how quickly it could like fall apart kind of, or it
hmm,
can get like too oily and yeah, they're finicky. Some of the pigments are more finicky than others.
hmm. Yeah, it's and I think if you understand that, well, I mean you understand that with color, of course. Like when you're painting and you want to use a more transparent color or a color that's higher and it's a that's stronger in terms of tinting strength and so forth. Just like innately, if you're painting for a while, you start to understand those kind of things,
Hmm.
which it becomes a kind of language, right? That you just this like physical language.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that sense looking at your work that you're it's a language that you can see it. You don't need to know like it's nice because I think there's an accessibility in your work that as a viewer I'm experiencing um the painting on a certain level that's viscerally understandable.
Oh, nice. I like that. Good. That's good.
It's so much art. So many people think like I took my mom came to visit New York a couple of like last month, and we were at MoMA, and my aunt was saying, I don't really understand modern art. And I was like, oh, well, there's not really anything to understand. You just have the experience of it. And, you know, I think a lot of people think that it's something beyond their knowledge and understanding. Yeah, maybe if you had an art history degree and so forth, you would have a different understanding and you might see different qualities of it that might enrich it and make it richer in some ways, or maybe not. Uh, you
Yeah.
might just see those things and not see the fit, like the actual. You might get not have the experience of it, but I think that accessibility. I mean, it's also just something you can't force too. It's not, then it becomes a product, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's just there to experience, see what happens, take it
That's
or
it.
leave
That's it. That's good.
it.
Um, well, it's been lovely to chat. And I before we go, I want to ask if you have any advice for artists or anyone who wants to live a creative and fulfilling life.
Just stay curious. I think that's like really important thing to do in art and in life.
You certainly lead by example there. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for talking.
Yeah, it was great.